But there are also external pitfalls as well. And all those things around us. And we've actually got the next slides on difficult people, and so we can touch on people very specifically next time. But there are other external pitfalls, like just going to the pub for a start, or it could be other people in our life, or it could be other situations.
Yeah, broadly it's people, places and things, but it could also be smells and sounds and sights, because but everything can trigger an association with alcohol for us. If it's a place we normally drink in, if it's a person we normally drink with, if it's a shop we normally buy alcohol in, if it's a particular sunny day that reminds us of beer, if it's a certain radio channel that makes us feel really pumped up and fancy a drink, house music or something. And
so it's okay to avoid the pub for a month, but what about avoiding Sainsbury's if you buy your wine and go home? What do? You can't just avoid Sainsbury's.
Why not?
Well, or Tesco's, or
you can't always change everything 100%, and you can't bitch about the fact that environmentally there is alcohol. The two things probably aren't going to change overnight. None of us can afford to just move, and we can't afford to spend our life lobbying the alcohol industry to stop putting alcohol everywhere. But it's about changing things a little bit. Just disrupt your routine a little bit, rather than just staying on the hamster wheel that you've always been on, which is where you've always drunk.
So maybe this month you shop online rather than going around the store. So that's a bit about the controlling, isn't it? Or you go to a different shop so that you take time to find the new layout and avoid the alcohol aisle.
Or ask your partner or some other relative, to come with you and do a bit of a kind of bigger shop once a month. Load up the car or carry things home and have somebody with you to accompany you. Like you say, shop online. And, in terms of coping with things that are in our environment or people, places and things, there are things we can avoid. There are certain, particularly in your first month, if that's what you're doing, you can probably make quite dramatic changes. If you want to just avoid going out all month and just be healthy and stay at home and relax, then you could avoid lots of things that might otherwise have drink around and make you feel tempted to drink. But if you can't avoid something, you don't want to avoid it, or it's very difficult to avoid it, let's say a wedding you really want to go to, you may have to be in that situation but control the situation, which would mean having some strategies in place for how you will be there but control, how tempted you are to have a drink. Some people would control by arriving late and leaving early and just being there for a limited time, or driving, or simply having a plan for, I'm going to have 3 soft drinks, some of the buffet, and then I'm going to leave and I've said hello to everyone.
Or I'm going to have 5 portions of cake.
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely a strategy.
Yeah, and then I'm just going to have that so much cake in my mouth all the time that I'm not going to be able to drink.
Yeah.
But even, and controlling things might be, like I say, taking somebody with you to the supermarket, or, because you can't avoid going. But you can control what you do when you're in the supermarket to make it. I think the thing is, people often kind of don't really feel it should be necessary, and again, they resent the fact that it's necessary or don't believe it is necessary to make these tweaks. But I strongly believe that, if we can make it 1 or 2% easier for ourselves to go shopping, we should make it 1 or 2% easier for ourselves. It won't be perfect, but it will be better than if we made no change whatsoever.
And then think how great you'll feel when you've gone around the supermarket, you've not brought some wine in, and I can tell you it gets easier every single time. So it's a bit like a practice. You're practicing not going in the wine aisle. You're practicing not having a drink in the pub. You're practicing not saying yes to every single alcoholic drink that's put in front of you. So sometimes it's you don't want to necessarily avoid. You might want to escape a bit earlier, but you might want to have that ability to say no or refuse, so that you can go, yeah, I can master this.
Well, and it's like then we develop, like muscle memory. The more we practice a skill, the more it becomes less difficult to do that skill in future. It becomes more automatic, but you don't develop automatic reflexes and responses without practicing them very consciously at first. But over time, all of our behaviours will become automatic. But that's how it becomes automatic to drink more than we want, because we're not consciously even thinking about how much we're drinking.
It suddenly happened and we don't remember when. Okay, so people. So how you can deal with difficult people? Well, top tip number 1 is to lie. That's a terrible thing to do, Helen. Why would you do that?
Well, I suppose it depends on the type of the person, who the person is, in what way they're being difficult. I think sometimes we are in situations with people who we know would just keep on and on at us. Why aren't you drinking? You haven't got a problem with drink. I drink more than you. What do you want to do that for? Surely you can just have one.
Go on, have another one.
And you know what? Maybe with our loved ones or our very close family, we might want to spend time helping them understand why we're doing what we're doing. But there's some people, colleagues or associates or difficult friends who are always argumentative. We just think, you know what, I don't want this conversation tonight. I don't want to talk about alcohol all night, or lack of it, so I'm just going to fib and say I'm on antibiotics, or my doctor's advised me to give up alcohol.
And you can say you're doing it for charity if you're doing it in a month like Dry January or Dry July or whatever the various months are. It's hard, for someone to go, oh, that's terrible if you're doing it for charity.
They couldn't say that, and they couldn't really, criticise somebody who's doing what lots of other people are doing at the same time. And lots of people would say they're on antibiotics, or I'm just doing, I'm taking a month off sugar, I'm doing an elimination diet, and obviously alcohol's full of sugar, and there's ways of not drinking and not pretending to drink, not actually holding a fake drink, but just telling people different reasons why you're off the sauce.
But it is absolutely worth looking at all the friends that you spend time with in a month and realising those that might put bigger pressure on you, and work out what you're going to say to them in advance. But you can also avoid them, which is one of the techniques we've got on the list for the month. And you might want to reintroduce some friends, which I haven't really put on the list, but I do think there is something about you suddenly realise the friends that have been avoiding you because you drink too much in the way that you're avoiding other friends. And when you start going through your list, you'll go, actually, I've not caught up with so-and-so for a while. Why don't I go and have a really nice coffee with them and a really nice conversation?
Especially if you're drinking for sport, if you're kind of more of a hedonistic drinker who likes the big binges, because people might find you fun to hang out with couple of times a year, but they know it's going to be a heavy night, so they'll avoid you the rest of the year because you're that person.
And
who
when you
drinks
really
that
think
much.
about it, and and I used to wake up in the morning with a hangover and know that I had a great night. I feel awful now, but I had a great night. But I don't remember anything about that great night. I knew I had a time with people, and I think it was great. But there's something very different about meeting somebody after work for a non-alcoholic drink. You spend less time, but you do more in that time. You both get to go home early and have a nice sleep and wake up refreshed in the morning. So see it as a chance to catch up with some people for some real good quality time. And if you want to avoid one set of people, it doesn't mean you have to be a hermit and go and sit at home on your own. Find, some other people that are on your list that you haven't seen for a while. And then I guess the final bit for me is about co-opting people. Instead of avoiding people, sometimes friends just don't know what to do. And so if you give them a particular task and say, well, I'm doing this for me and I would like your help, and could you help by not pestering me, you can co-opt them and get them to help you in your journey.
And as you've always said, once you ask people for help, that's much harder for them to criticise what you're doing or say no, because nobody wants to be that person. And I also think that, that's a life skill to learn, is to sort of practice assertively asking people what we want, because we often become yes people. We say yes, we resent saying yes immediately, but we still say yes out of pressure and guilt. And actually learning to say no and learning to ask for our needs to be met is quite important, particularly if you're planning on drinking a lot less after your month, or not drinking at all, because that will become really quite an important personal skill to have.
Yeah.
And actually, other people often don't know what our drink problem is to us, because lots of people drink heavily but are incredibly successful, productive, organised. They appear to be managing their life very well, probably are, but we don't always personally like where drink takes us, but that doesn't mean other people see what we feel. So sometimes they're just confused. They might think that they drink more than us. They might not know we drink at home as well as when we see them, or when we finish seeing them, we go home for more drinks at home. They don't always know the extent of our issue.
So one Club Soda member said that they really enjoy having a meal and a glass of wine with their partner in the evening, and they tend to drink wine quite late in the evening, and this will totally ruin the routine. And so we talked to her about saying, well, asking a partner to help her, that they still want to have dinner together, and explain that she still wants this routine. but she wants to not drink in it. And so to say, I need your help in doing this, I'm fine for you to carry on drinking wine, but could you help me find some things that I can enjoy to drink on those evenings as well? And it's really important to me that we keep this and have a positive conversation. And because, you know, this is a relationship that's important to her too. Another thing you can do is if you've got a mate who's got a different health goal, or a different goal in life, say, well, if you can help me with this, I'll help you with your thing.
Absolutely.
You know, it goes both ways, and you might not want to go out running and they might want to, and so you can phone up in the morning and say, I didn't drink last night, how are you going with the running? That's perfectly good too. Excellent. Hope some of those work.